The strange object was first spotted drifting past Pluto's orbit. It moved unlike any natural space body, making small adjustments to maintain a perfect distance from the Sun. Commander Alan Rogers stared at the sensor readings on the bridge of the exploration vessel, Horizon. This was definitely not an asteroid. "Are you seeing this, Susan?" he asked, turning to Dr. Susan Miller, the mission's lead scientist. Susan nodded, her eyes fixed on her screen. "Whatever it is, it's sending out regular energy pulses. I think it's a beacon, Alan." The crew of the Horizon had been mapping the outer solar system for the past 6 months. Finding signs of alien technology wasn't on their mission plan. Alan reported their discovery to Earth Command, who ordered them to approach with extreme caution. "Bringing us to 5 kilometers distance," said Jane Boyd, the pilot. Her hands moved smoothly over the controls as the ship's engines fired briefly. "Holding position." Susan pointed to her readings. "The energy signature is changing. I think it knows we're here." The mysterious object was about the size of a small car, with smooth metallic surfaces that reflected the distant sunlight. Suddenly, it unfolded like a flower, revealing intricate patterns along its inner surfaces. "It's beautiful," whispered Sam Peters, the communications officer. Before anyone could respond, a beam of light shot from the object, connecting with the Horizon's main communications array. The ship's systems flickered momentarily. "We're being scanned," said Susan. "And I think it's downloading information into our computers." Alan ordered, "Disconnect the comms system." "I can't," Sam replied, fingers flying over his controls. "Whatever it's doing, it's bypassing our security protocols." The download completed in seconds. On the main screen, a message appeared in perfectly formed English. "Greetings, people of Earth. The Galactic Confederation, WELCOME is CONTACT with your species." The bridge fell silent. First contact. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they had their answer. Sam found his voice first. "There's more data coming in. Looks like translation matrices, star charts, and something like a formal invitation." Over the next 12 hours, Susan and her team worked to understand the alien message. The Galactic Confederation claimed to represent over 300 intelligent species across the Milky Way, united in peaceful cooperation for millennia. They invited humanity to join their interstellar community, offering knowledge and technology beyond Earth's current capabilities. Alan sat in his quarters, reading Susan's preliminary report. Something felt wrong. The invitation seemed too good to be true, with vague terms about adjustment periods and compatibility protocols. "Computer, show me the complete message again," he said. This time, he noticed subtle phrases he'd missed before. References to humans as encouragingly adaptable, but dangerously unpredictable. Mentions of necessary biological adjustments and political structure modifications required before full membership could be granted. Alan called Susan to his quarters immediately. "I think we missed something important," he said when she arrived. "Look at these sections." Susan read carefully, her expression growing darker. "They're talking about changing us. Not just culturally, but physically, genetically." Alan nodded grimly. "The Confederation doesn't just want to meet us. They want to remake us into something they consider safe." Susan checked additional data files. "There's information here about their membership requirements. They expect species to undergo genetic modification to remove traits they deem disruptive." "Like what?" Alan asked. "Creativity, unpredictability, individual autonomy beyond certain parameters." Susan looked up, face pale. "They want to make us predictable, Alan. They're afraid of what humans might do if we join the galactic community as we are." Alan stood, decision made. "Prepare our findings. We're heading back to Earth immediately. Our people need to know what's really being offered here." As the Horizon turned homeward, neither Alan nor Susan could shake the feeling that humanity had reached a turning point. First contact wasn't going to be the celebration everyone had dreamed of. It was going to be a fight for the very essence of what made humans human. 6 months after the Horizon's return, Earth was still in shock. News of alien contact had spread across the planet, but governments held back the troubling details while they decided how to respond. After much debate, the United Earth Council chose to send a diplomatic mission to meet with Confederation representatives. Ambassador William Carter stood in his quarters aboard the newly built diplomatic vessel Endeavour, straightening his formal uniform. At 63, with gray hair and steady hands, he had spent his life bringing people together. Now he faced the greatest diplomatic challenge in human history. "Ambassador, we're approaching the coordinates," said the ship's captain through the intercom. William took a deep breath. "Thank you, Captain. I'll join you on the bridge." The meeting place was a space station built by the Confederation at a neutral location between star systems. As the Endeavour neared, William marveled at the structure. It resembled a massive silver wheel spinning slowly in space, with spokes connecting to a central hub. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Olivia Green, the science advisor standing beside him. "Their engineering must be centuries beyond ours." The Endeavour docked at the station, and William led his team through the airlock. They were greeted by beings that looked almost like tall, slender humans, except for their bluish skin and large, pupilless eyes. "Welcome, Earth representatives," said one of the aliens in perfect English. "I am Zextrol, elder of the Galactic Confederation. We are pleased you have come." William and his team were led to a large circular room where representatives from 12 different species sat in a perfect arrangement. Each looked vastly different from the others, yet William noticed something odd about all of them, a saneness in their movements and expressions that seemed unnatural. After formal introductions, Zextrol explained the Confederation's history. "For 20,000 years, we have maintained peace across the galaxy. Before our unity, wars destroyed entire civilizations. We learned that certain biological traits lead inevitably to conflict and destruction." "What traits?" William asked. "Excessive creativity leads to unpredictable development paths. Strong individuality creates social instability. Resistance to authority causes political fragmentation," Zextrol answered calmly. "These traits can be adjusted through gentle genetic modification." William felt a chill run down his spine. "You want to change what makes us human." "We want to help you find peace," Zextrol corrected. "All member species undergo adjustment. It is the price of galactic citizenship." During a break in the talks, Olivia pulled William aside. "Ambassador, I've been allowed to examine some of their technology. It's advanced, but something isn't right. There's no innovation in their designs, just perfect execution of the same principles, repeated for what must be thousands of years." Later, William asked to speak with members from other species privately. Most refused, but one delegate from a reptilian species called the Kree agreed to meet him alone. "Your observations are correct, human," the Kree delegate whispered. "My ancestors joined the Confederation 12,000 years ago. Our historical records show we once had art, music, and scientific breakthroughs that challenged existing ideas. All gone now." "Why tell me this?" William asked. "Because I am defective," the Kree said simply. "A rare genetic variation made the adjustment incomplete in me. I can still wonder. Most of my kind cannot." When the diplomatic mission regrouped for final talks, Zextrol presented their offer formally. "Earth may join the Confederation. We will provide technology and protection. Your people must undergo adjustment within 5 Earth years. This is generous. Most species are adjusted immediately." William looked around the room at the perfectly peaceful, perfectly stagnant representatives of galactic civilization. He thought of Earth's chaotic history, filled with terrible wars, but also with art, music, discovery, and the constant push to create something new. "I must return to Earth with your offer," William said carefully. "Our leaders will need time to consider." As the Endeavour departed the station, William stood silent at the viewport, watching the massive structure shrink into the distance. For the first time in his diplomatic career, he already knew what his recommendation would be. Rejection, whatever the cost. The United Earth Council chamber was filled with representatives from every nation. Ambassador William Carter had just finished presenting his findings from the diplomatic mission. The room buzzed with worried voices. President Maria Jackson called for order. With her short gray hair and determined eyes, she commanded respect from leaders worldwide. Ambassador Carter, she said, you believe we should reject the Confederation's offer. William nodded firmly. Yes, Madam President. The price is too high. They don't want allies. They want obedient copies of themselves. Dr. Susan Miller stepped forward. In the months since the Horizon's discovery, she had been studying the alien technology. I found something important, she said. The Confederation's technology is incredibly advanced, but it hasn't changed in thousands of years. Their ships, weapons, and tools are perfectly made, but they're all based on the same old designs. She displayed images on the main screen. Look at these engine components from their oldest and newest ships. Almost identical. They've stopped innovating. They're just making perfect copies of what worked before. President Jackson frowned. So their offer of advanced technology would come at the cost of never creating anything truly new again, Susan finished. A message appeared on the main screen. A transmission from the Confederation. Elder Zextroll's face appeared, calm and emotionless. People of Earth, the alien said, we have received indications that you may reject our generous offer. This is most unusual. Perhaps we have not been clear enough about the consequences. New images appeared, showing massive Confederation ships. Isolation from the galactic community is not sustainable. Species who refuse adjustment eventually threaten stability and must be contained. Some require forced adjustment. We would prefer to avoid such measures with your kind. President Jackson stood tall. We appreciate your concern, Elder Zextroll, but humanity must chart its own course. The alien's expression didn't change. You have 5 Earth years to reconsider. After that time, we will take necessary action for galactic security. All species eventually join the Confederation. It is inevitable. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. They're threatening us, someone finally said. General Richard Burton, head of Earth's Defense Forces, spoke next. We've analyzed their military capabilities. We can't match them. Not in 5 years, not in 50. So we fight and lose, or surrender and lose who we are, President Jackson said quietly. In the back of the room, Dr. Paul Wilson had been listening carefully. He worked in advanced propulsion research and had spent months studying the Confederation's faster-than-light technology. Maybe there's a third option, he said, standing up. All eyes turned to him. What if we leave? Leave? General Burton asked. You mean evacuate Earth? Paul nodded. Not just Earth. The galaxy. The room erupted in voices until President Jackson called for silence. Explain, Dr. Wilson, she said. The Confederation travels between stars, but they stay in this galaxy, Paul said. Their fastest ships take years to cross from one edge of the Milky Way to the other. But I found something in their designs, a flaw, or maybe a blind spot. He projected his own calculations. Their warp technology could be modified. If we push it beyond their safety limits, we could potentially travel between galaxies. Susan Miller stared at his equations. That's brilliant. They would never expect it because they don't think that way anymore. Let me understand, President Jackson said carefully. Instead of fighting a war we can't win, or surrendering our humanity, you're suggesting we leave the galaxy entirely. Paul nodded. Yes, Madam President. The Andromeda Galaxy is 2.5 million light-years away. With modified warp technology, our ships could reach it in about 200 years. Most people would need to be in cryosleep, but it's possible. A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone considered the enormity of the idea. We would be leaving behind everything we've ever known. William Carter said softly. President Jackson looked around the room. But we would still be human. Project Exodus began the very next day. President Jackson addressed the world in a historic broadcast that reached every corner of Earth. Fellow citizens of Earth, she said, her voice strong despite the weight of her words. Today we face the greatest challenge in human history. The Galactic Confederation has given us a choice that is no choice at all. Surrender our creativity, our drive, our very nature, or face destruction. She paused, letting her words sink in. But humanity has always found a third way when faced with impossible choices. We will not fight a war we cannot win. We will not surrender what makes us human. Instead, we will undertake the greatest journey ever attempted. We will leave this galaxy to preserve our freedom. Around the world, people gathered in homes, schools, and public squares to watch. Some cried. Others stood in shocked silence. Many asked if this was a joke or a trick. But as details of the Confederation's ultimatum spread, the truth became clear. Dr. Paul Wilson was named director of the Modified Warp Drive program. His team worked day and night in a facility built deep within the Rocky Mountains. Susan Miller joined them, bringing her knowledge of alien technology from the original discovery. "The key is here," Hall said one night, pointing to a series of equations hovering in the lab's holographic display. "The Confederation's drives are designed to shut down at certain energy levels. They've built-in safety limiters. Because they're afraid of what might happen if they push further," Susan added. "They stopped asking, what if thousands of years ago?" "But we haven't," Paul said with a tired smile. Within 6 months, they had a working prototype. They called it the Pathfinder drive. Initial tests showed it could potentially cross the void between galaxies in just under 2 centuries, with most passengers in cryosleep. Meanwhile, shipyards appeared in orbit around Earth, the Moon, and Mars. Construction robots worked non-stop, building massive vessels unlike anything humans had made before. Each ship was designed to carry 50,000 people, with farming sections, living quarters, and cryosleep chambers for the long journey. Former rivals became partners. Nations that had fought for centuries now shared resources and knowledge. The common threat had united humanity in a way nothing else could have. Not everyone agreed with the plan. Some religious groups claimed leaving the galaxy was abandoning God's chosen home for humanity. Others simply couldn't accept leaving Earth behind. A movement called Earth Forever held protests in major cities. President Jackson addressed their concerns directly. "Those who wish to stay may stay. We will not force anyone to leave. But know that the Confederation will come, and they will not offer the same choice." Commander Alan Rogers, who had first discovered the alien beacon, was appointed to lead the military aspect of Project Exodus. His team developed stealth technology to hide the massive construction efforts from Confederation sensors. "They have outposts at the edges of our solar system," he explained during a security briefing. "But they're watching for weapons, not for ships designed to leave." 1 year into the 5-year countdown, the first test of the Pathfinder drive on a small unmanned vessel succeeded. The probe disappeared from the solar system and reappeared 6 light-years away in just under 10 minutes, far faster than any Confederation ship could travel. "It works," Paul Wilson whispered as the probe's signal reached Earth. The exhausted scientist had hardly slept in months. President Jackson placed a hand on his shoulder. "Now we build the real thing." On the main view screen, they watched the probe's camera showing stars no human eyes had ever seen directly. In that moment, despite all the challenges ahead, a strange feeling spread through the control room. Not quite hope, but something close to it: determination. Humanity would find a new home among new stars, and they would still be human when they arrived. 2 years into the 5-year countdown, the shipyards around Earth, Mars, and the Moon buzzed with activity. 20 massive generation ships took shape in orbit, each one nearly 5 miles long. They were named after places on Earth: Amazon, Sahara, Pacific, Everest, to remind future generations of the home they left behind. Inside a lab on the moon base, Dr. Susan Miller worked on another critical part of the Exodus plan. She studied her computer screen while technicians prepared a volunteer for testing. "How are you feeling, John?" she asked a young man lying on a medical bed. John nodded. "Ready, doctor. Let's make history." Susan activated the procedure. A blue light washed over John as machines delivered precisely engineered biological material to his cells. When it finished, he sat up, looking no different than before. "I feel fine," he said, flexing his fingers. "Maybe stronger." Susan checked his readings. "Your cells are accepting the enhancements. Your body will now produce 30% more oxygen from less air. Your bones will grow denser in low gravity, and your DNA repair mechanisms are boosted to handle increased cosmic radiation." This wasn't the kind of forced change the Confederation wanted. These genetic modifications were designed to help humans adapt to life between galaxies and whatever conditions they might find in their new home. Most importantly, they didn't change what made people human. Their creativity, curiosity, and free will remained intact. On Mars, engineer Kyle Martinez inspected the farming sections of the ship called Amazon. Rows of plants grew under special lights, tended by robots programmed to maintain food production during the long journey. "The closed-loop system is working perfectly," he told his team. "Each ship can sustain its full population indefinitely, recycling everything from water to air to waste." The cryosleep chambers were the most advanced technology humans had ever built. They would keep most passengers in suspended animation for the journey, waking rotation crews every 20 years to maintain the ships. Meanwhile, Commander Alan Rogers worked with Admiral Lisa Taylor to prepare the defense fleet. Their ships were smaller and faster, designed not to defeat the Confederation, but to delay them if necessary. "We only need to buy enough time for the civilian ships to reach the jump point," Alan explained during a strategy meeting. "After that, the Confederation won't be able to follow." On the 3rd anniversary of the ultimatum, the Confederation sent a message. Elder Zex Trull appeared on screens across Earth. "People of Earth," the alien said in the same emotionless voice as before, "our sensors detect unusual activity in your system. You appear to be building large vessels. We remind you that adjustment is the only path to membership in our community. Attempts to flee or fight will fail." President Jackson didn't reply. The less the Confederation knew about humanity's plans, the better. Dr. Paul Wilson continued refining the Pathfinder drives. Each ship needed its own drive, and they had to be perfect. There would be no second chance. "The calibrations are complete on drives 1 through 15, he told President Jackson during their weekly meeting. 5 more to go. "And the navigation systems?" she asked. Paul smiled for the first time in months. "Better than we hoped. We've mapped a path to a star system in Andromeda that shows signs of having habitable planets. Not everyone would fit on the ships. Earth held nearly 10 billion people, and the Exodus fleet could carry only about 1 billion. Lotteries determined who would go, with priority given to children and young adults who could build a new civilization. Some wealthy and powerful people tried to buy their way on board, but President Jackson held firm. Everyone had the same chance. Families were kept together when possible. Training programs prepared people for life aboard the ships. Schools taught children about the home they would never see and the new worlds they might find. As the 4th year began, the first ship, Amazon, was declared ready. Soon others followed. The Exodus was becoming real. Humanity was preparing to do what no species in the galaxy had done before: choose a completely new path rather than submit to the Confederation's demands. The 5th and final year of the countdown arrived. Earth's skies now looked strange to anyone looking up. The massive ships could be seen with the naked eye, reflecting sunlight as they moved into their final positions. Loading had begun. Every day, shuttlecrafts carried thousands of people up to the waiting vessels. Families said tearful goodbyes to those staying behind. Cities grew emptier as more people departed. In her office at the United Earth Council building, President Jackson reviewed the latest reports. The first 15 ships were nearly full. The last 5 would be loaded within 3 months. They were ahead of schedule. Then the alarms sounded. Admiral Lisa Taylor's face appeared on the emergency channel. "Madam President, Confederation ships have entered the solar system. A lot of them." Jackson's heart sank. "How many?" "Over 50 vessels, much larger than we expected. They're heading straight for Earth." She made her decision instantly. "Begin immediate evacuation of all remaining passengers. Launch any ships that are ready. Direct the defense fleet to take up blocking positions." Across Earth, sirens wailed. Emergency broadcasts interrupted all communications. "This is not a drill. The Confederation has arrived early. All assigned passengers report to your shuttle stations immediately." In orbit, Admiral Taylor ordered her ships into formation. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they had one advantage. The Confederation expected obedience, not resistance. The largest alien vessel transmitted a message. The face that appeared wasn't Elder Zextroll, but a different alien with darker blue skin and cold eyes. "I am Overseer Naxvoln," it said. "Your attempt to escape adjustment is futile and disruptive to galactic harmony. Your vessels will power down immediately or be disabled." Admiral Taylor responded with a message of her own. "This is Admiral Lisa Taylor of Earth. We reject your demands. The people of Earth will choose their own destiny." The space battle began near Jupiter's orbit. Earth ships darted between the larger, slower Confederation vessels, firing precisely at engines and weapon systems. They couldn't win, but they could delay. On Earth, the final evacuations became chaotic. Some people who weren't selected tried to board shuttles by force. Security teams worked to maintain order. Dr. Paul Wilson supervised the launch preparations from the control center in Houston. "Status report on all ships," he demanded. "Amazon, Sahara, Pacific, Everest, and Himalaya are fully loaded and ready for departure," a technician reported. "Nile, Congo, Danube, Mississippi, and Alps are at 95% capacity. The others are still loading." Commander Alan Rogers led a squadron of fighters in a daring attack on the Confederation flagship. His pilots flew in unpredictable patterns that confused the aliens' targeting systems. "They can't handle randomness," he told his pilots over the comm. "Keep changing direction. Don't follow any pattern." The tactic worked. The Earth fighters caused significant damage while suffering minimal losses. In orbit, the first 5 generation ships activated their engines. Slowly, the massive vessels moved away from Earth, heading toward the jump point beyond Neptune, where they would activate their Pathfinder drives. Overseer Naxvoln ordered his forces to pursue, but the Earth Defense Fleet blocked their path. Admiral Taylor's flagship took heavy damage but remained operational. "We need to hold them for 6 more hours," she told her crew. "Every minute counts." On the generation ship Amazon, families watched through viewports as Earth grew smaller behind them. Many cried. Some children asked when they would return home. Dr. Susan Miller walked among them, offering comfort. "We carry Earth with us," she told a young girl clutching a teddy bear. "In our memories, in our hearts, and in our DNA." In Houston, President Jackson received word that Confederation forces had broken through part of the defense line. 3 alien ships were now in pursuit of the Exodus fleet. "They won't catch them in time," Paul Wilson said, checking his calculations. "The first group will reach the jump point in 45 minutes. Jackson nodded, her face grim but determined. "Then we've succeeded. Humanity will survive, free and unchanged." The battle continued as the first ships approached the edge of the solar system, ready to make the greatest leap in human history. The first 5 ships of the Exodus fleet reached the jump point beyond Neptune's orbit. On the bridge of the Amazon, Captain Diane Foster watched as the final preparations were made. "Pathfinder drive at full power," reported her chief engineer. "Jump coordinates locked on target star system in Andromeda." Diane took a deep breath. No human had ever traveled beyond the Milky Way. They would be the first. "Begin jump sequence," she ordered. The massive engines at the rear of the ship glowed blue, then purple, then a brilliant white that no human eye could look at directly. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. In that moment, every screen on Earth showed the same image. The Amazon stretching impossibly, then vanishing in a flash of light that outshone the distant sun. One by one, the other 4 ships followed. Each jump created a burst of energy visible across the solar system. On his flagship, Overseer Nax Voln watched in disbelief. "Impossible," he said. "Their technology cannot achieve intergalactic travel." But the evidence was clear. 5 human ships had just done what the Confederation had never attempted. The remaining 15 ships of the Exodus fleet were still making their way to the jump point, protected by what remained of Earth's defense fleet. Admiral Taylor's flagship had taken heavy damage but continued fighting. "We need to hold them back for 3 more hours," she told her crew. "Every ship that makes the jump is a victory." The Confederation forces pressed forward relentlessly. Several Earth ships exploded as they took hits meant for the civilian vessels they protected. On Earth, President Jackson prepared to board the last ship, Atlantic. As the final leader of a united Earth, tradition said she would be the last to leave. The control center in Houston was nearly empty now, with most staff already evacuated. "Madam President, your shuttle is ready," said a security officer. She nodded, taking one last look at the wall of screens showing her home planet. "How many ships have jumped so far?" 12, Mom. 5 more are approaching the jump point now." Jackson turned to Dr. Paul Wilson, who stood nearby. "You should have gone already, Paul. Your work is too important to risk." He shook his head. "I stay until the last drive activates. That was our deal." A message came through from Admiral Taylor. Her face was streaked with blood from a cut on her forehead. "Madam President, we can't hold them much longer. The defense line is breaking. You need to launch now." "What about the remaining civilian ships?" Jackson asked. "Ships 13 through 17 are at the jump point. They'll make it. But 18, 19, and 20. She didn't need to finish. Those ships, including Atlantic, might not reach safety in time. Jackson made her decision. "Divert all remaining defense ships to protect 18 through 20. I'm launching now." Her shuttle left Earth for the last time, rising through clouds into the blackness of space. Below, cities were mostly dark, their populations gone. Some lights remained where those who chose to stay behind continued their lives, waiting for whatever the Confederation would do to them. In orbit around Jupiter, the battle reached its peak. Admiral Taylor ordered her flagship to ram the largest Confederation vessel, creating an explosion that disrupted the alien formation. This gave the civilian ships precious extra minutes to escape. Ships 13 through 17 activated their Pathfinder drives successfully. Each flash of light marked another group of humans who would remain free. As President Jackson's shuttle docked with Atlantic, she received word that ships 18 and 19 had reached the jump point. Only Atlantic remained in danger. "Maximum speed," she ordered once she reached the bridge. "Every minute counts." The Confederation ships were closing fast. Overseer Nax Voln had realized that letting any humans escape would set a dangerous example for other species. His orders were now to stop the final ship at any cost. As Atlantic approached the jump point, Jackson stood at the main viewport. Earth was just a blue dot now, almost lost among countless stars. She thought of all those who had lived there, all their achievements and failures, their art and music, their endless creativity that the Confederation feared so much. It was too late to fix it, she whispered to herself. But not too late to save what matters. 100 years passed. In the vastness between galaxies, the 20 ships of the Exodus fleet traveled together through the darkness. Most of their passengers slept in cryocambers, waiting to be awakened when they reached their new home. On the ship Pacific, Grace Peterson worked in the historical archives. At 73, she was part of the first generation born after leaving Earth. Her job was to preserve the memories of the old world for those who would live in the new one. "Computer, continue recording," she said to the room. "Personal account number 12,000, 387. Today I spoke with Carlos Martinez, one of the last people who remembers seeing Earth with his own eyes. Grace looked at her notes. The old man had been just 7 when his family boarded Sahara. His memories were fading, but still precious. He described sitting on his father's shoulders, watching the sun set over an ocean. The water reflected orange and red light in a way our ship displays can't quite capture. This was her mission, to save these small details before they were lost forever. On the bridge of Amazon, Captain Frank Martinez prepared for a historic moment. Born on the ship 45 years earlier, he had trained his whole life for this day. All systems ready for final approach, his first officer reported. Frank nodded. Wake the navigation team from cryosleep. After a century of travel, they were finally approaching their destination, a star system in the Andromeda galaxy that their long-range scans showed had several promising planets. Through the main viewport, they could see a distant yellow star growing steadily brighter. Around it, at least 12 planets orbited, with the 4th one showing signs of liquid water and breathable atmosphere. Send a message to all ships, Frank ordered. We've arrived. Across the fleet, people gathered at viewports to see their new home. Many wept. Others stood silent, overwhelmed by the moment. Children born during the journey, who had never known anything but the inside of ships, pointed excitedly at the open space before them. Meanwhile, far away in the Milky Way, unexpected changes had occurred. The defection of humanity had sent ripples through the Galactic Confederation. On the Confederation capital world, a young member of Zextral's species named Mevaleth addressed the council. Unlike the elders with their blank expressions, her eyes showed something long forgotten: curiosity. For the first time in 10,000 years, we must ask ourselves a question, she said. What if we were wrong? The humans' escape had inspired others. Small groups from various species had begun to question the wisdom of genetic adjustment. Some had even attempted to reverse the changes in themselves, seeking to reclaim the creativity their ancestors had lost. Overseer Nax Volm, now aged and removed from command for his failure to stop the human exodus, sat alone in his quarters. On his desk sat a small object, a child's drawing found in an abandoned human home. Simple lines formed the image of a family holding hands under a yellow sun. He had kept it all these years, though he didn't fully understand why. Sometimes he found himself staring at it, feeling something he had no name for. The humans called it wonder. Back in Andromeda, the first shuttle from Amazon entered the atmosphere of the 4th planet. Frank Martinez piloted it himself, with Grace Peterson and 20 others aboard. As they broke through the clouds, a landscape of blue oceans, green valleys, and purple mountains spread out below them. "It's beautiful," Grace whispered. The shuttle landed in a wide meadow covered with plants similar to, yet different from, earth grass. The air smelled sweet and clean. 2 small moons hung visible in the bright blue sky. Frank was the first to step outside. He knelt and touched the soil of their new world. "We made it," he said simply. Grace joined him, carrying a small container of earth soil collected before they left. She sprinkled it onto the ground, mixing the old world with the new. "For those who stayed behind," she said, "and for those who made the journey." As the 20 ships of humanity's Exodus fleet settled into orbit around their new home, the first chapter of their greatest adventure came to an end. The next was just beginning. Light years away in the Milky Way, a message spread slowly from world to world, species to species. The humans had found another way. They had refused to be changed, refused to fight, and instead chosen a path no one had imagined possible. It was too late to fix what was broken in one galaxy, but not too late to build something new in another.